addition to working with all these top athletes, you've actually worked with a couple of artists. And we have Pat Magnarella, who's a friend of ours in here the other day. At one point, Johnny Rzeznik, and I believe at some point Seal had the same issue, came to you because they couldn't get out of their own way. They were putting in the time, they clearly had the skills, they clearly had had some track records, but they were having a difficult time getting out of their own way. Talk about how you put all this together when you're sitting in a room with an artist, not a golfer, not a basketball player, not a sports team.
Well, first of all, I should say, I mean, I've worked with a lot more musicians than those two. Those are probably pretty well-known people. But I mean, I've worked with orchestra people where they go in and you have 500 people trying out for one spot that opens up every 10 years or more. And, you know, you got 3 people sitting behind a curtain and, okay, play these 3 numbers. And you can play them in your bathroom or your bedroom or your house. And now you got to go play them with 3 people over there judging you, and you got to turn it loose. And so, I mean, it doesn't really matter what area of performance you're into. This idea of getting out of your own way, I mean, the biggest mistake you can make is evaluate your talent when you're not totally trusting yourself and freeing it up and turning it loose. And, you know, we call it getting out of your own way, but getting out of your way means getting past doubt, getting past fear, getting past self-consciousness, getting past other people's opinions of you or judgments of you, and saying, you know, I just have a ball doing this, and when I do it, I'm going to go out there and turn it loose, and whatever happens, happens. But when you do that, you have to be willing to make mistakes, or you have to be willing to have people judge you harshly, or not like you, or walk out on you, or laugh at you, and say, well, someday people are going to appreciate me. And, you know, we call it going out there and playing naked. Because it's like you're stripped of everything dear to you, like being careful and conscious and making sure I don't mess up. Well, the minute you don't try to not mess up, you'll mess up.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard for people to get their hands around, is when you turn it loose, you perform better. And people love watching you because it's like, wow.
Those are the magical nights for bands.
And that's why, and that's why I mean in sport, you have to get in that state of mind drug-free. You know, some musicians do it drug-free and some don't. But I mean, that's our quest. And it's really pretty neat and cool when you can get yourself to turn it loose and say, hey, and so to some degree, it's like you have to understand what that feels like and make enjoying the feeling of cutting it loose and letting go.
That's your drug.
With the whole world watching you, be more important than how it turns out. And know that eventually, as my attitude, my mindset, and my skills and my competence all catch up to one another, wow, I'm going to be something. And some people, it's like, well, they're turning it loose, but they may not have the skill yet, but it'll get there. Some people have the skill, but in front of other people, they never turn it loose. And in the examples you used, I mean, one was more about, you know, writing songs and getting writer's block, and had to let go of fear and doubt, and the fear that, you know, what if I gave away my only 12 songs, and now they're ready to pay me and I don't have any more. And so then you start worrying that, God, you know, did I make a mistake giving them away? I'm famous, but I'm still broke. In the other case, it's can I go on stage and turn it loose with the whole world watching? When, oh my gosh, what if I do and they don't like it? They go, well, what if you do and they love you? What if the world falls in love with you? But I mean, it's like, it gets back to your picture of yourself. If you can see yourself going out there and having the world go crazy with joy watching you do your thing, well, it's pretty easy to turn it loose. I mean, it's no different than us talking right now. I mean, to some degree, I'm not thinking at all about what the heck I'm talking about.
That's
now, you say
clear.
things, but I mean, you say things that, oh, a thought goes through my head and it just comes out of my mouth. But if I ever started thinking about it or said, well, you want to do this show online? Well, gee, I better have some notes and I'll read them. Well, I read them slowly and carefully to make sure that I said only the right things in the right way and I didn't misspeak. Well, it probably wouldn't be very interesting to anybody, and it wouldn't have much of an attitude effect. And, you know, you're obviously not overly self-conscious.
No, thankfully.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's some, at least in the thing you love and that you want to be great at, you have to be able to get in this state of mind. And, you know, the simple way I put it, is when you go on stage, you better feel like you own the world, or you're showing off. Be the rock star. And I tell people, but when you leave and go home to your family and friends, it's a real good idea to remember, just because you're a star on stage, it doesn't mean you're bigger than life, better than life, or more important than anyone else in life. The people who can't put that balancing act we call perspective together, you know, tend to screw up their personal life, their relationships, their marriage, their kids, their own life, even though they became a star.
I see it all the time.
There are other people who put their personal life together, but don't ever learn to turn it loose doing their thing. And, you know, that's kind of the balancing act we're trying to
Well,
people
it's interesting,
put together.
you know, it's all great stuff, you know, and I think, you know, we had a dinner one night with Padraig Harrington, one of your clients, and my client, Brandon Boyd, and it was so obvious to me there that night that, you know, the conversations that you and I have had about golf are really just the proxy for the same conversations that I've had with artists over the years, and that the most important thing in all of it, you know, once you have some level of talent, is that belief in having the right attitude. And you mentioned something earlier today that I want to end on today, and it's actually number 6 on your rules of golf here, and something that I think about all the time, and I'll say it to all the musicians out there today. You told me, Rennie, you will have a great attitude today no matter what the outcome, and you're going to enjoy the opportunity to play golf with some of your great friends and test your skills in the heat of competition. And I think that all gets back to this notion of, why do you do it? Because you got to love the ride and you got to have a passion.
You got to love it, and it's like you put all the time in the training and the rehearsals, you know, same thing in sports, and good. Now it's game time. We get to go out there and show our thing and show our stuff. You know, in basketball, when I work with basketball teams, we talk about a swagger, and it's game time, and you go out and show off, and it either turns out great or it doesn't. But the real kick is, now I want to go out there and find out if I can let myself do something I've seen myself do in the garage with no one listening or watching, or am I going to suddenly tie up in knots because I don't want to make a mistake or look bad. And if it either comes out great or it doesn't, and then it's good. Now we go back to rehearsal and we start all over again, and then we're going to get another opportunity. And life is full of those opportunities. And eventually you got to figure it out, and you got to learn to get out of your way and do it, when even the world may not be kissing your butt and tell you how wonderful you are, until a certain moment in time.
Yeah.